For Crema Media's Polity, I'm Sane Dlamini. Researcher and analyst Professor Raymond Suttner joins me to discuss 25 years of democracy, part 5, xenophobia repudiates foundational values of democratic South Africa. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you.
Are you not exaggerating on this issue of xenophobia if you are giving it too much prominence in this column?
Well, you know, if you don't experience xenophobia, maybe you do think it's exaggerated. But at this very moment, I'm sure there's some community experiencing some form of xenophobia. In the Daily Maverick today, I didn't have time to read it, but there was some report about a xenophobic attack in Durban. It's happening all the time. And I think I'm concerned about it because we fought apartheid, because apartheid amounted to systematic racism against the black people of South Africa. Now, what we are doing, what we are allowing in relation to foreign nationals is systematic attacks on them. I'm saying systematic in the sense that they're happening all the time. They're officially condoned or incited in some cases, and I think it is a big blot on democratic values in this country, on democratic practices in this country, and we really need to put a stop to it.
Government has over and over again reported on issues that foreign nationals are putting a strain on the government, especially in the health sector. Do you think that it is untrue to suggest that their presence in our country is placing pressure on hospitals and other services?
Well, you know, if something is under pressure, if 100 more people use it, it's under more pressure. But we have to ask ourselves, why are social services, including health services, under pressure to provide basic needs to people? And that's got nothing to do with foreign nationals. The health services, the social services ought to have the capacity to meet the needs of all who use it, who have a constitutional right to use it, but there has been procurement irregularities, many of which were reported in Northwest Mediosa. They've been stealing, a whole lot of other things. And to expect foreign nationals to take the blame for this is, in my view, not actually an honest way of approaching this. And I think it's very regrettable that the president made these little remarks the other day that people come here from other countries, they have babies, and people from South Africa look at it and they think their services are being chowed, or whatever word he used. Now, that's not why there's a pressure. The president and all people who've been around in the last 10 years must take responsibility for what was stolen from our budgets and from our services, and why they don't function has got nothing to do with foreign nationals.
You are also suggesting that government leaders or state officials are not speaking the truth in the way they address xenophobia or the question of foreign nationals. Is that a fair comment?
Well, they say that they're not concerned about people who are here legally. All they're concerned about is undocumented migrants, and our borders are porous, and we need to have the Defence Force there. Minister of Defence speaks of sending drones because of what she says, the war against undocumented migrants. But if you look at the people who are subjected to attack, these are not undocumented migrants. The people who are in the hospitals very seldom get in there without documentation, even though they've got a right in emergency situations. In practice, they will not get in there. And I cited an article in New Frame where someone was refused treatment in the Northwest, or Mpumalanga, one of these places. also, when people attack traders, the issue of their documentation is not one of the questions that arises. They are attacking these people because, and it's often incited by other traders who can't compete with them. They argue, they incite them because they say they're selling expired goods, and that's proved to be untrue, or they are pursuing unfair business practices. That's also untrue. The communities wouldn't be buying from them if they were pursuing unfair practices. So what I think is, when people attack, they don't say, "Can I see your papers?" They just attack them. They burn down their shops. They drive them out. And I think this is shameful, and I think to hide under the fig leaf of only being concerned about the legal presence is contrary to the facts, because xenophobia is happening. This thing of the Premier of Gauteng wanting compensation from neighbouring states for hospital services, that is not directed at undocumented migrants. It's directed at documented ones, because 99% of the time they will not get into hospitals if they don't have the documents. So it's not unfair at all. It's scandalous. It's shameful. It's disgraceful that you have top leaders saying these things. They ought to be ashamed of themselves.
Thank you, Professor. That was Professor Raymond Suttner speaking to Creamer Media's Polity about 25 years of democracy, Part 5, Xenophobia, Repudiates, Foundational Values of Democratic South Africa.